Okay, so have you ever wondered where your old phone goes when you're done with it?
Into the drawer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mine too, usually. Or like maybe a box in the closet, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But eventually, like all that stuff, it ends up, well, somewhere. And today we are going on a deep dive into the world of e-waste or electronic waste.
That's right. We are going to be digging through a fascinating article about what happens after you chuck your mobile phone in the bin.
Because it turns out there's way more to this story than just tossing your old gadgets and forgetting about them.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild ride, actually.
So, I guess to kick things off, like, how often do you actually get a new phone?
Oh, gosh. Probably more often than I should, if I'm honest.
Me too, probably. Every couple of years?
Yeah, about that. But the thing is, it's not just us. It's like a global phenomenon, and it's actually a massive problem.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about it. In 2014, the world generated something like 44.4 million tons of e-waste.
44 million tons.
Yeah. And it's only getting worse. They're projecting that number to hit 74 million tons by 2030.
That's insane. But I guess it makes sense when you think about how often we upgrade our devices. But it's not just phones. Right.
Oh, absolutely not. Phones and computers are part of the problem, for sure. But believe it or not, the biggest chunk of that e-waste is actually appliances.
Really? Appliances? Like what, fridges and stuff?
Yep. Fridges, washing machines, ovens, all those big things that we don't place as often as our phones, but they really add up in terms of waste.
Okay, so we've got mountains of e-waste piling up, but like why? What's driving this whole upgrade and discard cycle? Is it just us being obsessed with the newest tech?
Well, there's definitely a part of that, right? Like, who doesn't love a shiny new gadget? Faster processors, better cameras, all that jazz. It's tempting.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like they design these things to make us want to upgrade, right?
Yeah, well, there's actually a term for that: planned obsolescence.
Planned what?
Planned obsolescence. Basically, it means they make things that aren't designed to last or be repaired easily.
Oh, yeah. Like when your phone screen cracks
Yep.
and they tell you it's cheaper to just buy a new phone than to get it fixed.
Exactly. So we end up tossing out perfectly good devices just because it's more convenient or cost-effective.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is. But here's the thing. That trash we're throwing away, it's not really trash. This article calls it a hidden gold mine.
Hold on, a gold mine
Yeah.
in our old phones and toasters.
Right. Your phone alone could have up to 60 different metals inside.
Really? Wow.
And I'm not just talking about basic metals either. I mean, yeah, there's copper and tin and stuff, but we're also talking gold, silver, platinum, palladium.
Precious metals? Like the stuff they make jewelry out of?
Yep. Those are all in our electronics, and those are the same materials that we need for all kinds of new technology.
Like what?
Think solar panels, electric car batteries, even the next generation of smartphones.
So all that stuff we're just chucking in the landfill could be used to build the tech of the future.
Exactly. It's crazy. And the potential value we're talking about here is insane.
Like how insane? Give me some numbers.
Okay, so get this. Just in 2016, they estimated that the recoverable metals in discarded phones globally were worth $9.5 billion.
Billions. Just from phones.
Just phones. And by 2019, the value of recyclable materials in all e-waste globally was something like $57 billion.
Wow. That's more than the entire GDP of some countries.
It really is. And think about what we could do with all those resources if we had a system to actually recycle them properly.
Okay, so we know e-waste is valuable and could be recycled. But like, why isn't it happening more? If it's so valuable, why aren't companies jumping at the chance to reclaim all that stuff?
Well, that's where the darker side of this whole thing comes in. E-waste isn't just made up of precious metals, unfortunately.
What do you mean?
Well, a lot of electronics also contain toxic substances like mercury and lead.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Those are really bad for you, right?
Exactly. And if they just end up in landfills, they can leak out into the soil and groundwater, contaminating ecosystems and potentially harming human health.
So it's not just a waste of resources. It's a serious environmental and health hazard.
Right. And the problem gets even more complicated when you consider that a lot of e-waste gets illegally exported to developing countries.
Why would they do that?
Well, often it's cheaper to ship the waste off to other countries where environmental regulations are less strict.
So they just dump our problem on someone else.
Pretty much. And it's a huge problem because a lot of times the e-waste is processed in really unsafe conditions, putting workers and communities at risk.
So it sounds like we have a pretty big mess on our hands. But is there anything we can actually do about this? Is there any hope for responsible e-waste management?
Oh, definitely. There are solutions, and there are countries leading the way.
Like who?
Well, Singapore, for instance, they have a super impressive system in place with over 300 e-waste collection points.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. It makes it really easy for people to recycle their electronics properly. And actually, there are some pretty amazing recycling technologies being developed right now.
Oh, like what?
Well, they're working on robotic systems that can, like, take apart electronics and extract the valuable
This is
materials.
amazing.
And the best part is that they can do all of this with very little environmental impact.
So there's hope then. We're not totally doomed.
Definitely not. But we need a multi-pronged approach to really tackle this thing, you know?
What do you mean?
Well, for starters, governments need to implement stricter regulations on how e-waste is disposed of,
Yeah.
right? And they could, like, incentivize responsible recycling programs to encourage people to do the right thing.
Sure, yeah.
And companies, they need to step up too, like
Yeah.
design products that actually last longer.
Right.
And that can be repaired.
So move away from that whole planned obsolescence thing we were talking about.
Exactly. Embrace the circular economy where products are designed with the end of their life in mind.
I love that idea.
Right. And as individuals, we can be more mindful of our consumption habits, you know?
Like resist the urge to upgrade our phones every time a new one comes out.
Exactly. And make sure we're disposing of our old devices responsibly. Do a little research. Find out what recycling options are available in our area. It's easier than you might think to make a difference.
Okay, so next time I'm tempted by that shiny new gadget, I'll definitely be thinking twice about the journey of my old one and the bigger picture. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of e-waste. It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. Remember, it's not just trash, it's a potential resource. And protecting our planet starts with our own choices.
Well said. So, listeners, the next time you're holding that new phone or laptop, take a moment to consider, where will it go when you're done with it? And what can you do to make sure it doesn't end up contributing to this growing problem?
It's worth thinking about, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.